My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Lost Season 3. And this will be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, then come back and watch my review because I will be going in depth. Now, I didn't really care for the first season of Lost, but the second season was a vast improvement. I got some entertainment from it, and I'm glad to report that Season 3 continues that trend of Season 2 because I did enjoy this season. Is it great? No. Is it entertaining? Yes, so let's begin talking about the very beginning of this season because it begins with the song Downtown. And I just watched Last Night in Soho the other day, and that song's in that movie, and it's such a great song. Like, as soon as it started up, I'm just like, what are the odds that I would watch two things that have that song in it? Like, I can't think of any other movie I've watched that has that song in it. So just an odd coincidence. But let's talk about the plot lines. The main plot line of this season is the others. They'll get lots of attention this season. They're no longer in the background. They're right there. They're a big part of this entire season. And I love how this plot line began with Jack, Sawyer, and Kate held captive by them. Kate and Sawyer are being locked up in cages. Jack's locked up in a room. And I just thought this was a thrilling and intense way to begin this season. Like, you're just trying to figure out how they're going to get out of there. But at the same time, they also highlight the personal drama of the three of them. They highlight the love triangle, and I love seeing that come to play here. But I also love the fact that they get Jack to perform surgery for them, and you're just trying to figure out, what's Jack going to do? Is he going to kill him? Is he actually going to perform the surgery? And just trying to figure out where his mind's at. I thought that was some really great stuff, and how he uses that to get Kate and Sawyer off the island was just such a great moment. So the first section of this season, I thought was some of the very best stuff in the entire show. I just thought it was all thrilling and intense, and I was highly captivated by what was going on. But that plotline moving forward didn't work for me as much as it did in that first section. Like, after Kate and Sawyer get off the island, and when I say the island, I mean the mini island, Jack makes a deal with them, and they agree to let Jack off the island. And this all just felt very contrived to me. Like, from the very beginning of this season, Jack is held captive by them. He then goes to being best buddies with them, because we do see him playing catch with them. And then at the end of the season, he's trying to kill them again. It's just this wild wave of different emotions, and I'm not sure how much of it I entirely buy. It doesn't feel like a smooth ride getting to that point. It just felt very bumpy. And then Locke goes ahead and ruins the plan of getting Jack off the island. And then they're like, well, I guess that's it. We don't need to fulfill our side of the bargain. And they just leave him behind. And it's just like, so you were willing to let him off the island up until this point. And now that Locke gets in the way, you're just like, nope, never mind. Really? I'm not sure I entirely bought that. But I do like how Kate doesn't listen to Jack's wishes and tries to get him back. And I do wish they spent a bit more time with her trying to figure out if she should respect Jack's wishes or if she shouldn't, what she should do. Because her and Sawyer return to the beach only for her to immediately leave again. And I'd like to see her struggle a bit more in that regard. But I do like the fact that everything goes south because of Kate's good intentions. And how she feels the weight of that. So I do like that aspect. And then you've also got this new character, Juliet, who no one really trusts at all besides Jack. And the entire time they're just like, can we trust her? Can we not? Does Kate trust her? Does she not? What's going on? And I do like the added tension that she created. That said though, I'll also say that Jack and Juliet purposely leaving everyone out of their plan was such an idiotic decision. Because nobody trusts her. And then Sawyer gets a tape of her giving some notes to Ben. And everyone's like, well, we certainly can't trust her now. And then Jack's just like, I actually knew all that. And this is what we're going to do. And it's just like, why would you not tell everyone that beforehand? Like, you want people to trust her, but you're not willing to trust them. So, Jack does have some bad judgment calls. Like, at the end of the second season, when he doesn't tell Sawyer and Kate that they're walking into a trap, that was a bad judgment call, and now we've got this here. I don't know. I like Jack as a character, but he loses me in moments. But I do love the plan they come up with to combat the others. I thought that was a really good plan, but some stuff involving the others just doesn't work for me at all. Like, some of it just seems really excessive. Like, how much is the audience really willing to buy into? Like, how many hatches are they going to find on the island before it's a bit overdone? Because I feel like we've already crossed that point. Then they find this guy in the middle of the island with his own little radio shack and all that. And, like, how big is this island, first of all, that they haven't discovered all this stuff? Like, they discover a van, they discover this guy, the electric fence. How big is this island? Because this seems like a massive island. Like, definitely the world's biggest island. But anyways, this Radio Shack guy, I don't think we needed that addition here. Like I said, the electric fence, I thought that was a really stupid addition. And then they've got this underwater base that looks like something out of a G.I. Joe movie. It's just like, some of it just comes across really silly and cartoony. Every other storyline in this season, though, that doesn't revolve around the others, doesn't get much attention at all. Like, I guess you get the storyline of Desmond being able to see the future, and I like Desmond as a character. He's very charismatic, he's very likable. Nothing about this storyline works for me at all. Then you've got this helicopter pilot who crashes onto the island, and that really only plays a section into the last section of this season. One aspect of the other storyline that I didn't like at all was the reveal of the pregnancies. If that makes any sense. Like, the reveal that no one can get pregnant on the island, and that's why they captured Claire, and that's why they injected her with some stuff, and I thought all that stuff was really stupid. Like, they were trying to come up with some kind of answer to why they were after Claire, and it just feels very convoluted. It feels really messy, and I didn't really buy into that stuff. One other storyline we get here is that Locke absolutely refuses to leave the island to the point where he makes it so no one else can. And for 95% of this season, I thought this was a really stupid plot line. And I'll get to it later, but looking back on that in hindsight, that's some of my favorite stuff this season. But let's talk about the characters a bit, starting with Jack, played very well by Matthew Fox. Like, he's really coming into his own with this character. Like, I haven't seen Matthew Fox in anything else, but I feel like whenever I see him now, I'm just going to see Jack. And that's a good thing, because he's playing this character very well. And, like I said, he has some really bad judgment calls, like not telling everyone about Juliet, and there's just a few times where he's such a dick to Kate. Like, there's one moment where Kate wants to tell Jack something in private, and he's like, whatever you can tell me in front of Juliet. And I'm just like, oh, really? And then Juliet tells Jack, just tell her. And he goes like, no, I won't tell her. And he's saying all this stuff in front of Kate. And I'm just like, okay, Jack, you're being a bit of a dick now. But the moment where Jack tells Kate that he loves her was a really nice moment. Like, it seems like he's kind of made peace that Kate's chosen Sawyer over him. And it breaks him, it devastates him. But he's still very open about how much he loves her. And I like that element of his character. Then you've got Kate, who I didn't really like her flashbacks at all this season. Like, I don't like the flashbacks at all, period. But we got one flashback where we see that she's married to Nathan Fillion. And if you're going to get Nathan Fillion into your TV show, you better not waste him. And yeah, he was completely wasted. Like, he's such a good, charismatic, likable actor, and he's in the episode for like 5 minutes. Total waste. And then another flashback, we see Kate with Sawyer's ex. And that was such a stupid moment. Like, I hate that contrived nature of this show, where there's all these different characters that we know that pop up in other people's flashbacks. And anytime it happens, I roll my eyes. Like, really? Kate's getting along now with Sawyer's ex-girlfriend, and she's talking about this guy that she has a kid with, but She won't mention the name. It's just, I don't like it. And like I said, I wish we saw Kate struggle a bit more with Jack's wishes to leave him. But that all said, I still really like this character. I think she's likable. There is depth to her. You know, that moment where she sees Jack and Juliet together and she goes back to Sawyer's tent and she's tearing up. I thought that was a really good moment. Evangeline Lilly is a really good actress here, and I think that this is some of the best acting I've seen from her. She is quite likable as Kate. And then we've got Sawyer, who's once again played very well by Josh Holloway. I think he just plays this character so perfectly. I love his attitude. I love how he can be a badass in moments. But I love how you can also see that he genuinely cares for Kate. He really does. And it adds a nice human factor to him. I also love the fact that he kind of plays detective and figures out why Kate was crying that one night. And I love it when him and Jack play ping pong the next day. And these two, like, they're not best friends or anything, but anytime they get along, you just feel so satisfied in that moment. And then they get talking and Sawyer pieces together why Kate was upset. And it just feels like these two, if they didn't both like the same girl, that they could be best buds. And, you know, there's always this thing between them that they don't ever bring up. And I like that. I do really like Sawyer as a character. He's very likable. I don't like the fact that it gets brought up what him and Charlie did this season, and it kind of just gets thrown away. Like, there's that one episode where Holly manipulates him to help everyone out. And I do like that episode. But just the fact that nothing came out of the fact that he literally got someone to beat Sun up. I wish there was more follow through on that, but I still like this character. And then you've got Juliet. Unfortunately, Romeo isn't in the show, but as soon as I saw her, I'm just like, is that Mrs. Claus? And sure enough, it is. She's played very well by Elizabeth Mitchell, and I just love the unpredictable nature of this character. You never know if you can trust her, if she's a good person, bad person, what's going on. And I'm gonna be honest, I thought for sure she was going to die before the end of this season, but no, she's still alive and well at the end of this, so let's see where that goes. I didn't like her flashbacks at all. In fact, there was one flashback of hers where her ex gets hit by a bus, and I don't know what it is, but anytime someone gets hit by a bus or something in a TV show, I laugh. Because it just comes out of nowhere and it's just unintentionally hilarious. It kind of reminds me of that scene in Mean Girls where Regina George gets hit by a bus. And I just watched Ozark Season 1, and even that season had a moment where someone unexpectedly got hit by a bus, and it's meant to be a dramatic, emotional moment, and I ended up laughing at it. And I like that one moment where she stands up for herself against Saheed and Sawyer, so yeah, I like this character. Then we've got Ben, who I think is a great villain. And what I like most about him is just this unique quality to him. You know, if you look at him, he doesn't look like the cliche villain. He looks more like a nerd than anything else. But for him to be as confident and as menacing as he is in moments, for him to be as manipulative as he is, I just really like this villain. And I think Michael Emerson plays this guy perfectly. So I love the addition of him in this show. That said though, why does he absolutely refuse to kill anyone, it seems like? Like, I guess it's a bit inconsistent because in one episode, he'll shoot Locke point blank, and then the next time we see him, he'll be like, don't actually kill the 3 people that killed 7 of our men. No, I'm going to radio you, and then when I radio you, just shoot the ground 3 times. Like, why wouldn't you kill Saheed, Bernard, and Jen? Like, why wouldn't you? They just killed a few of your men. So, I don't buy that aspect to him, but everything else about this character I really like. And I'm very curious about this Jacob person. Like, the guy in charge of Ben. Like, is he a ghost? Does this show go into the supernatural? My parents like it, so I assume not, but I guess I'll find out. I'm really intrigued by that element. And then we've got Mikhail, who does have a menacing presence to him, but the fact that he didn't die was just stupid. Like, it's such a big deal in that moment that he just died, and then a few episodes later, who idols are just like, just kidding. I don't like that. I don't like in shows when you show that someone's dead and then they come back a few episodes later. It's very lazy. Then we've got Desmond. I already said that I like him. He's charismatic. He's likable. That said, I don't like his episodes because I don't really care for the plot where he can see all these different visions of the future. And the flashback where we see him running into Charlie is just some of that contrived nonsense that I don't like about this show. Then we've got Charlie. And, okay, I like what they did with Charlie in Season 2, where they turned him into the villain. But there is no follow-through to that, even in Season 2, because he turns into a villain for a few episodes, and then by the end of the season, he's somehow redeemed himself in Claire's eyes. And it's just like, you made him interesting for a little bit, and then you just threw that away, and that continues here. I've never loved this character. I've never found him to be super interesting. And just the fact that he opens up and tells Sun, hey, I put a bag over your head and dragged you into the jungle where you thought you were going to die. And he gets slapped, I believe, and then that's it. That's the repercussions of doing something as wrong as that. I hated that. I really did. Like, this guy should have been the villain. But that all said, I do like where they took his character by the end. I was kind of surprised they ended up killing him off. But I did find that the decision for him to die so Claire could get off the island was a genuinely moving decision. And I do like that aspect. Do I 100% buy his death? No, absolutely not. The door's wide open and he runs over and closes himself in that room. You could have easily gotten out there. Easily. But no, he had to die in that moment. So that's a bit contrived, but the emotional impact was still there. And also, the fact that he leaves his ring in Aaron's crib is a terrible choking hazard. Very bad parenting. Then we've got Holly, who, once again, I really don't like his flashbacks where all this bad luck keeps happening to him. I just find it to be really dumb. But my goodness, everyone was so mean to him in the last few episodes. Like, he just wants to help. And they're just like, look at yourself. You can't help us. I felt bad for the guy. So when he comes in and saves the day, I thought that was a really satisfying moment. And is that van that he finds, is that the same one that Ben's dad dies in? Because I feel like it was, but I'm not 100% sure. Then we've got Locke. And I'm just going to say, because this was such a proud moment of mine, because I was watching this show with my parents, and there was that one episode, and I'm just like, you know what? His dad is such a dick, and knowing the contrived nature of this show, I'm going to go ahead and predict that his dad is going to end up on this island. And then like 2 minutes later, his dad's on the island, and my dad admitted that he was impressed. It's just like, why wouldn't you be? I'm a master predictor of this show. That said, that entire storyline didn't work for me. I didn't like that. It felt really contrived. And just the fact that Locke's dad happens to be the man that is responsible for Sawyer's parents' deaths, it's just one of those areas where they're trying to connect everyone and everything together that really doesn't work for me at all. Like I said earlier, at first I didn't like his plotline of sabotaging any attempt to get off the island, but looking back, now I do. That said, I don't like the fact that he gets shot, he dies, and then, nope, surprise, he didn't actually die. And then also, how did he find everyone at the end at the radio tower? Like, did I miss something? Like, how did he find them? Like, he was so far off. Like, I don't know. And then we've got Claire, who's always been one of my least favorite characters of this show. And that's still the case, but man, that flashback when Jack's dad appears, I'm just like, oh, are you kidding me? And then it turns out that those two are half brother and half sister. Come on, like, you don't have to connect everyone and everything. And they didn't really do anything with that for this season. So maybe they bring it up in the next season or whatever. Maybe it turns into something, maybe it doesn't, but either way, I hate it. Then we've got Nikki and Paolo, who I know are two very controversial characters, and I do hate the fact that the show at times just brings in random actors and acts like they've always been there. Whenever they do that, I feel like they're treating the audience as idiots, but I actually also did predict the episode that centered on them. I'm like, I bet you they're not really dead. To be fair, I thought they were pulling a Karnov type, but no, it was some kind of spider that only paralyzes them. That all said, though, when they're getting buried by Soro and Holy, and she wakes up only for her to be buried alive, I thought that was actually a really effective haunting moment, so I dug that. Then we've got Mr. Echo, who I liked in the second season, and he gets killed off immediately in this season, which I thought was disappointing. Then we've got the French lady, and we discovered that her daughter's on this island, and her daughter isn't really that well developed at all. And I wish they played that up a bit more, because when they eventually reunite, it just lacks any sort of emotional payoff. And yeah, the best episodes of this season is, I like all the early ones where Jack, Kate, and Sawyer are held captive by the others, and I liked One of Us, Left Behind, and I liked Through the Looking Glass a lot, but there was also a few points of that episode where I'm like, I feel like I saw this episode a long time ago. Like, I've never watched Lost before a few weeks ago, but this episode, there's a few shots, like, Jack's leading everyone, and then he comes face to face with Ben, and I'm just like, I've definitely seen this episode before. So, just weird, but yeah, that was one of my favorite episodes. Some other issues I have with this season is, I've never cared about the smoke monster. Whenever it appears, it just feels so silly to me. And it just kind of shows up and leaves. Walt coming back, was that just an hallucination, or is he actually back? I don't know. I feel like if Michael and Walt were going to come back to this show, they would have come back already, so I don't really need them to come back. And once again, no one being in Jax and Juliet's plan was contrived, and I think that they shouldn't have left the audience out in the dark about that, because real tension comes from when the audience knows something the characters don't. So if we knew Juliet was actually good and that they were planning to attack her or something, that'd be more intense. But, they don't really do that. But let's talk about it. The very last scene of this show is easily the best scene of this show up until this point. It is the first time that I think this show has reached perfection. I think it's an absolute brilliant moment, and it left me with quite the impact. Because we've been watching this show for so long, we know about the flashbacks. Okay, here's another generic flashback. Okay, Jack's still upset about his wife leaving him. Okay, what else is this going to flashback going to offer me? And then, in the end, it turns out that they get off the island, and this is actually a flash forward. My jaw actually dropped. This is one of the best twists I've ever experienced in movies or TV shows, just period. It takes all pre-existing knowledge of how the show operates and turns it on its head in front of us and gets maximum impact for that. When Kate appears, I'm just like, wait, he knew her before the island? Like, I wouldn't put that out of the show doing that. But then when he starts screaming, we have to go back, we have to go back, I'm just like, holy shit, this is a flash forward. And it's very haunting. Throughout all of Jack's flashbacks, we've seen him lose his dad, we've seen him lose his wife, and how he lost all purpose in life. And then he crashes onto this island. Well, he found new purpose. People love him. He helps everyone out. When him, Kate, and Sayid come back, and everyone's just like, look, it's Jack. They gather around him. They respect him. They love him. They've really become like a family on this island. And the reality of it is that when he leaves this island, he's going back to nothing. I love Kate as a character, but realistically, a girl like Kate would end up with Sawyer. Whether or not she should, that's a completely different debate. But realistically, Kate would end up with Sawyer. So if they leave this island, Kate would no longer be a part of Jack's life. And I just think the way the show approached this was absolutely brilliant. Because the season ends and it seems like, oh, there's hope. They might actually get off this island. That's wonderful and everyone's celebrating. And then it beats you with the realization of what that would actually mean to Jack. Of what that would actually do. And it's perfectly in line with everything we've seen up until this point. You know, there's one quote in The Office that I've always loved, and it's, I wish there was a way to know that you were in the good old days when you're actually in them. You know, lots of people have a period of time that they look back on very fondly. Whether it's a specific job, school, or just a period of time. And when you're in that period of time, you're enjoying it. But at the same time, you want to move on from it. And as soon as you do, you miss it. And to see how that would apply to Jack in this situation, I thought was just handled brilliantly. Throughout this entire season, we see Locke sabotaging any attempt to get off the island because he knows if he gets off, he might not be able to walk again. He has nobody and nothing waiting for him. And he loves this island and he just finds it beautiful and he appreciates it. Why would he want to go back? And he's always kind of viewed as a villain because of that. But in this moment, we see that he might be onto something. And I just thought this was a heartbreaking, brilliant moment for the character of Jack. Loved this last scene. Loved it. But this is another good season of television. With the last 2 episodes aside, I still don't like the flashbacks for the most part. There was some really contrived nonsense this season where characters happen to be related to another, or characters are from someone else's past, or stuff like that. None of that stuff works for me. None of it. But you've also got yourself consistent villains from the beginning to the end of this season, which provides some tension. The show is thrilling in moments. You've got some great new characters. The returning characters continue to feel more and more defined. And even though the show rarely reaches greatness, it's still consistently entertaining. And that last scene, like I said, it's an all-timer. So I'm going to go ahead and give Lost Season 3 a 6 out of 10. Okay, have you seen Lost Season 3? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin, out.